up guys, my name is Daniel if you didn't know that already, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to play For Fiona by No Use for a Name. It was requested by Magzy40 and Eirik Haegstad. Not sure if I said your name right, so I'm sorry if I didn't. But I'm going to teach you the McIlrath version. He does a cover of it and it's in half-step down tuning. If you want to play it like the studio recording, go ahead and play all of these same chords in standard tuning and it'll sound just the same. So go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the intro, which is what I played at the beginning. It sounds like this. Now I'm only going to give you a few chord names for these because they switch up a lot and I don't know the names of all of them. But I'm going to tell you exactly where to place your fingers, and it's very important because it's the easiest way I found to be able to transition between these. We're going to start with the B5, so put your index finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, your ring finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and your pinky on the 4th fret of the G string. And you're going to lightly touch the low E string, high E string, and B string so they don't ring out. The strumming pattern for the first 4 chords are going to go down, down, up, down, up, down, up. Then you're going to switch, and all you got to do is move your index finger to the 2nd fret of the B string, and you're going to wrap your thumb around and lightly touch the low E and A string so they don't ring out. And then you're going to do that same strumming pattern. Down, down, up, down, up, down, up. After that, you're going to come up here to an E flat minor, I think is what it's called. But you're going to want to use your index finger to bar the 6th fret of the A, D, and G strings, and put your ring finger on the 8th fret of the D string, and your pinky on the 8th fret of the G string, and your middle finger on the 7th fret of the B string. And I'll show you the reason why you're going to bar on the 6th fret. So you're going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up, and then you're going to take your pinky off of the 8th fret of the G string and strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up. That way you get that note right there. All together so far? Now leading into the second half of the intro, off of that E flat minor 7th, I think is what it's called, you're just going to slide down a whole step here, and you're going to want to keep your ring finger on the 6th fret of the D string and put your index finger on the 4th fret of the G string. And you're going to want to wrap your thumb around to hold down the 4th fret of the low E string. And you're going to lightly touch the A string, B, and high E string so they don't ring out. You only want those 3 notes. You're going to strum down, up, and then you're going to put your pinky on the 6th fret of the G string, keep the rest of your fingers where they are, down, up, down, up. Now switching to the next chord, you're going to put your index finger on the 4th fret of the A string, keep your ring finger on the 6th fret of the B, and you're going to want to move your pinky over to the 8th fret of the G string. And then you're going to strum down, up, up. And then you're going to move your pinky down to the 6th fret of the G string to make a C sharp 5 chord. And strum down, up, down, up. Then we're going to go down to an E major over here, open E string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A, ring finger 2nd fret D, and index finger on the 1st fret of the A. B and E are open, and you're just going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then we're going to move to a variation of an F sharp chord. So put your ring finger on the 4th fret of the A, pinky 4th fret D, middle finger 3rd fret G, and index finger on the 2nd fret of the B string. And again, lightly touch both E strings so they don't ring out. And you're going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that second half altogether should sound like this. So I'm going to play it all together a little bit slower. parts you're going to learn are going to be the verses, and there are 3 different kinds of them. This is going to be the verse number 1. Sounds like this. I can't even think of words to match the way I'm feeling. I don't even think a book can say enough for you. I can only try my best to put it in a song, I guess. I try to speak, I know you tell the truth. So you want to set up your fingers like this for the first chord. Bar the 2nd fret of the D, G, B, and high E strings with your index finger, and then use your pinky on the 4th fret of the B string and your ring finger on the 4th fret of the G string. And you're going to wrap your thumb around the E and the A string so they don't ring out. And if that's too hard to do, just set your fingers up like I told you and use your middle finger to lightly touch the E and the A string so they don't ring out. It'll work just the same. But with that first chord, you're going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And from there, move your ring finger and your pinky up 1 string each. That way your ring finger is on the 4th fret of the D string and your pinky is on the 4th fret of the G string. And you're still going to be barring the 2nd fret with your index finger. And then strum down, 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 up, down. And then you're going to use your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the G string, take your pinky off the 4th fret, and strum up, up, down, down, up, down, up. This next chord you can do one of 2 ways. The way I do it is I use my ring finger on the 6th fret of the A string, pinky 6th fret D string, and use my index finger to bar the 4th fret of the G and the B strings. The other way you could do it is just use your ring finger on the 6th fret of the D string and use your index finger to bar the 4th fret of the G and the B strings. That's just a little bit easier, but you're still going to want to mute the low E and the A strings if you do it that way. And the strumming pattern for that chord is going to be down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the next chord, all you have to do is take your pinky off of the 6th fret of the D string and have your index finger barring the 4th fret of the D, G, and B strings, and keep your ring finger on the 6th fret of the A string. So if you did this chord over here, just move your ring finger up and it'll sound the same. And the strumming pattern will be down, 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 up, down, up, up, down, down, up, down, up. So these last 2 chords. And that first part all together a little bit slower. Now the next part of the verse, you start out with the same 3 chords. But instead of moving up here on the fretboard, you're just going to go back to that first one. So barring the 2nd fret of the D, G, B, and E strings, and your pinky and ring finger on the 4th fret of the G and the B strings. And just strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then switch the 2nd chord you were doing, 4th fret D, 4th fret G, 2nd fret B, and high E string, and just strum down, and then take your pinky off, and then strum down again, so that your middle finger is on the 3rd fret of the G string. So the second half of the verse a little bit slower. And that's how you play the first verse. So I'll play it all together a little bit slower. If practicing that killed your fingers, rejoice, because this second verse is so much easier. It sounds like this. And if I could raise a small amount of time together, then we could make believe this world will never end. Unfortunately, truth is cold. You stay young while I get old. Just always know I'm your best friend. So the second verse uses all power chords, which are so much easier because you just use 3 strings and you can make chords out of them. So that's always nice. But the strumming pattern is a little bit different. We're still going to start with that B5 chord. So that's 2nd fret A string, 4th fret D, and 4th fret G strings, and mute the rest. And just before you start, he does a quick down up down strum. It's really fast. If that's too difficult to do and then strum along to the next part, then just do 1 down strum, pause, and then do the rest, because the rest are just all down up down up down up. So and that lasts for 8 counts. And when you move to the second chord, just move all your fingers up 1 string each. So 2nd fret E, 4th fret A, and D strings, and that's going to be your F sharp 5 chord. And then you're just going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So for 8 counts on that one too. But you don't need to do that strum, unless you want to. It's up to you. And these next 2 chords are going to follow suit with that strumming pattern, that down, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the next chord is going to be a G sharp 5, so that's going to be the 4th fret E string, 6th fret A, and D strings. And you just strum down, 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 for 8 counts again. And then you go back to that B5 at the end and do that same strumming pattern. So that first part all together. Now the second half uses the same strumming pattern as the first chord that I showed you with that quick down, up, down strum. Again, if you don't want to do that, just strum down and then repeat the chords. But the first chord, you want to use your index finger to bar the 2nd fret of the A and D strings and put your pinky on the 4th fret of the G string, and you're going to strum that down, 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 up. So again, same strumming pattern, same amount of counts. Then you're going to go to that F sharp 5 chord and do the same thing. Then go to the B5. And then you're going to go back to the F sharp 5 and just strum down once and let it ring out. So that second half all together. Now if you're a beginner and you made it this far into the video, I recommend using this version of the verse to play throughout the song until you build up to the first one I showed you and the next one I'm going to show you. Alright, this is the third version of the verse, and it's a little bit trickier than the other 2. So I'm going to play it real quick and then show you how to do it. And I'm scared as anybody who has done this, but I wouldn't give it up for nothing, Fee. You took my life, turned it around, you put my feet back on the ground. I owe you eternally. So this verse is pretty much using the same chords, just higher up on the fretboard and adding a couple octaves. So the first chord we're going to use, index finger goes to the 7th fret of the E string, ring finger on the 9th fret of the A and D strings, and then use your pinky on the 11th fret of the G string. And I know that might be a stretch for some, but give it a try until you get it. And we're going to use the same strumming pattern as I showed you before, so that down, down, up, 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 for all of these chords. You don't have to do that really fast strum. But start with this one. And you'll want to keep your pinky on the 11th fret of the G string this entire chord progression. So when you switch to that next chord, just put your ring finger on the 11th fret of the D string and your index finger on the 9th fret of the A string. And you're going to strum down, down, up, down, up, next one you do, just move your ring finger up to the 11th fret of the A string and use your index finger on the 9th fret of the D string. Keep your pinky where it is again and do the same strumming pattern. And then the last chord, use your index finger to bar the 9th fret of the A and D strings and keep your pinky again where it is and just strum that one out. And then you repeat. Now when I repeat, it's easier for me to use my middle finger this time and just stretch back. Do it however you want to. Now when you get to that last chord, all you do is strum down before going into the chorus. Next part up is the chorus, and it's gonna sound like this. Nothing is the same. Everything is about to change. Sometimes I see silence in your eyes. Let it all crash down. When it ends, it begins with you. We're gonna learn every time you do. So first chord is going to be that B5, 2nd fret A, 4th fret D and G. Strum down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down, up, before you switch to the next chord. Now you're going to use the same strumming pattern when you switch to this chord over here. 6th fret A, 8th fret D and G strings. Down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down, up. Then we're going to go to that G sharp 5 power chord, 4th fret E, 6th fret A and D, and you're going to strum down, 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 up, move a whole step down to the F sharp 5, 2nd fret E, 4th fret A and D, strum down, 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 up, and then you go to an E major and you're going to do the first strumming pattern that you learned. So down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down, up. So all together a little bit slower. And then you repeat the chord progression up into that E major chord. So when you get to that E chord, one thing I like to do is put my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, my pinky on the 2nd fret of the D string, and my middle finger on the 1st fret of the G string. And the reason for that is it makes it really easy to just slide up to the next major chord. And in this case, we're going to go to F sharp after that E major. So when you get to E, it's going to be down, down, and then switch to F sharp over here. So just slide up one whole step on the fretboard, 4th fret A, D, 3rd fret G, and 2nd fret B. And you're going to strum down, up, up, down, down, up, down, up. So that second half all together. That's how you play the chorus. The last part is the outro, and it sounds like this. I'm always here. I'm always here. So what I do is I use my pinky on the 4th fret of the G string and use my index finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string. And you're going to leave the B string open. And you pluck G, B, E, G, B, E. And let that E note ring out for a second. And then I use my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the G string and then do the same picking pattern. And again, keep keeping my index finger on the 2nd fret of the E string. Now when I switch to this 3rd chord, it's going to be the 1st fret of the G string, 2nd fret, high E, and the B string is still open, but I use my index finger on the 1st fret of the G string and my ring finger this time on the 2nd fret of the high E, and then do the same strumming pattern. And then the last one, you make half of an F sharp chord. So index finger goes to the 2nd fret of the B string, middle finger goes to the 3rd fret of the G string, and your ring finger goes to the 4th fret of the D string. And you're just going to strum down and let that ring out. Then you repeat that whole thing twice. And that's how you play the whole song. And leave any questions you have in the comment box down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.